5 weeks in a row talking about audio tools. This is week 4 of 5, and today we're talking about gates. What is a gate? How do you use one? And in fact, why would you want to use a gate? Hi, thanks so much for tuning back in for another video. I appreciate wholeheartedly each and every one of you who are watching and each and every one of you that subscribe to this channel, because on this channel I do gear reviews and audio production and video production and music composing and all things creative. And so if you're interested in any of that, hit the subscribe button. Consider joining the movement towards greatness together with me and you, together as a family. I do appreciate each and every one of you that do that. Okay, today, week 4 of 5, we got one to go after this, but today we're talking about a gate. So let's just start off. What is a gate? A gate, or a noise gate, depending on what country you're from, is a dynamics processor that works just like a compressor, where there's this designated threshold that you set that interacts with the dynamics of audio, the amplitude of audio over time. A compressor will attenuate your signal above a designated threshold. A gate, however, does the opposite. It attenuates the signal below a given threshold. What that means is anytime your audio is below the threshold you set in a gate, it turns it off. It shuts down all the audio. There is nothing that comes through. When a gate is on, your sound is off. When the gate is on, your sound is off. So if you set a threshold, let's say at negative 20 dBFS, anytime the audio comes above negative 20, you'll actually hear it. The gate will turn off when it crosses that threshold, and you will actually hear the audio, and then when it dips back below, generally below that threshold, the audio is back off as the gate turns back on. It is basically it's a noise floor removal tool, and it just gets everything out of the way except for the signal that you want to hear in your mix. Gates are incredibly effective in video production for voiceovers, for interview subjects, for just basically any human voice that you want to isolate from any of the noise that's going on. So why would you use a gate? Well, let's just talk about voiceovers, for example. When you hear a voiceover, the subject of the voiceover is the content, not the person talking. And so you just want to deliver what they're saying in the cleanest, most perfectly nice wrapped way you can, and a gate takes out any sound below the human voice. So a gate will be put on a voiceover, you hear them speaking the voiceover. Every time they stop for a breath or stop in general, the gate turns on, the audio turns off. That is the one of the best uses of a gate in video production. I also know a lot of people that use gates actually in an interview subject when you're doing corporate video and it's interview talking head based. I know a lot of people that use gates in that scenario as well. I personally don't, for the most part. It has to be a special situation for me to want to use a gate on an interview subject. I appreciate the focus of an interview subject being on that interview subject, and in that case when we're seeing them talk, I enjoy hearing the room as well as them. Maybe that's against the rules, I'm not really sure. I really like doing that. But a gate will effectively eliminate any audio below a threshold. So let's move into how do you actually use it. So there are 6 parameters you need to be aware of with a gate: threshold, open and close, attack and release, and hold. Those are the 6 you need to be aware of. Now the first one is threshold, and open and close is a part of threshold. So threshold, very similar to a compressor, is the point at which the gate interacts with the audio. And in this case, the gate is going to be on at all times until the audio peaks up above a certain threshold that you designate. Once you come above that threshold, the audio will actually turn on, the gate will turn off. When the gate is on, there's no audio. When the gate turns off, it lets the audio through. Think of it just like literally a gate. When the audio is below the threshold, the gate is closed. When the audio comes above the threshold, the gate opens. It's that simple. Now, open and close are a function of threshold, so you can really think of that parameter all together. Threshold is open and close. Many gate tools, gate plugins don't have an open and close feature. You may not have to worry about this, but simply open and close is a factor of threshold where you have different levels at which the gate opens versus closes. The only reason you would use this is just to help with the naturalness of the human voice. Sometimes if our amplitudes are really high, the gate will open and let the audio through, but if we dip down to take a breath or get a little softer, the gate will have a hard time with that. What an open and close feature will let you do is set a higher threshold for opening. So it opens at a higher level, and then the close is actually like a couple decibels below that. So it'll come open, but then it'll kind of go up and down over time before it actually closes again. It just kind of gives you some wiggle room to let the more naturalness of the human voice come through. It's something to think about and use if you have a lot of gate issues where the human voice is kind of cutting in and out. You get some weird, nasty sounds. I'll give you an example of that here. As I'm talking, this is a really hard threshold, really fast attack, really fast release, fast hold, and every time I stop to take a breath or let out a breath, it's clipping in and out like crazy because I don't have the open and close set properly and the hold is too short. So open and close are a function of threshold. So that's basically one. I know I said there are 6 parameters. There's actually 4. I lied just a little bit. Now, attack and release are the exact same thing as a compressor. Attack is at what point does the gate engage and turn off, and at what point does the gate disengage and go back to gating or shutting off all your audio. Again, you can leave those, just like with the compressor video, you can leave those at stock settings. You don't really have to worry about that. Maybe you want to mess with the release and extend it a little bit if you're having lots of harsh issues of the gate turning off too quickly. That may also be a function of hold, which is our final parameter of a gate tool. Hold is just a function of how long is the gate going to stay open after the audio comes dipping back down a given threshold. Different than release. Release has to do with it hitting the threshold and it turning back on. Hold is actually when it's up and open, how long is it giving it before it lets it dip back down to that threshold. So if you want to think about those 3, attack comes first in the timeline, then the hold, then the release at the very end when you're under that threshold and the gate turns back on and the audio turns back off. Got it? Give me a like if you got it. Okay. So with all of those things together, you can learn how to use a gate really well. Premiere doesn't actually have a gate feature. I know I've been featuring Premiere's stock plugins for all of the tools that I've been mentioning in this course. They don't actually have a gate plugin designated for itself. You'd have to go into the Dynamics plugin inside Premiere to actually use a gate. It's like a gate and a compressor and an expander all together. Don't worry about all that. If you want to use a gate, just go in and find that Dynamics plugin and you can use one that way. Parameters we talked about here are going to be on that one. Okay, that's a gate. That's it. Simple as that. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to respond to you that way. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitter at @OliverJHughes. That's where I love to talk about this whole world outside of YouTube. And in fact, we can interact that way too, which would be super chill. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So Christmas is coming up on Monday. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and get to spend some good time with people that you love. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you get a great day off and just enjoy it and eat and feast. I hope you get to do all of that. Next week, the week before New Year's, is week 5 of 5. We're talking about the limiter, the final piece of this 5-week audio course. You don't want to miss limiting. If you skip everything up to limiting, I still want you to see the limiting course, so tune back in for that. Otherwise, have a Merry Christmas and I will see you then.